Spud the Silly Potato. Potatoes are boring. I mean, at least carrots have a bit of colour to make them interesting. Yeah, and onions can make your eyes water. Potatoes don't do anything. Spud was a potato and couldn't really argue with the other vegetables. He just had to wait until he was cooked up and chomped. If he was lucky, maybe he'd end up as a lovely piping hot baked potato, adorned with melting salty butter, baked beans and grated cheese. Well, a potato could dream. That's pretty much all he could do. He lived in Barbara Bilius's boarding house in Barking. It was an exciting time because the largest wizarding convention in the country was taking place in Barking, and Mrs. Bilius was excited that a very grand wizard had arranged to stay with her. Spud was excited too. Potatoes like magic as much as anyone else, and he strained to catch a glimpse or to hear the tales of magic and wonder when the wizard sat down for his dinner. One day, something caught his eye on the kitchen floor. A very sparkly sock. Wizard size. It must have dropped on the way to the washing machine. When no one was looking, he hopped down onto the floor and hopped and hopped and hopped again towards the sock. It was a woven one, with very glittery thread, and was bright red. Spud didn't have any feet, of course, but he just couldn't resist. Again, checking that no one was looking, he shimmied the sock onto his head. Or the bit of the potato that was his head. You'll just have to imagine what that looked like. Suddenly, something strange was happening. A glittery mist sprung up around Spud, and he felt a rumbling in the air, and then pah! In a burst of stardust, he found himself flying through the air. It must be the wizard's magical powers. Whoa! He screamed as he swung his way, this way and that, and then whee! When he found he could do a loop and swoop down by the fruit bowl. The fruits were amazed, and after trying their best to duck out of the way of the flying potato, began to laugh and cheer. "Who's boring now then?" he shouted as he did one last lap of honour of the kitchen, and then swooped out of the window into the spring sunshine. "I'm Super Spud," he shouted, and wondered what other superpowers he had. Well, he was about to find out. He could hear distant cries. Someone was in trouble. "Help! Help! I'm slipping into the river!" As he flew over the town, he caught sight of a car perilously hanging over a bridge. It was beginning to slide further towards the rushing water underneath, and the owner seemed powerless to stop it. "This is a job for Super Spud!" He swished in front of the car, and with super strength, he pushed and shoved the car back onto the road. Ta-da! The lady was, well, let's be honest, quite perplexed at the sight of a potato doing a victory lap around her car, but she was relieved to be safe and was grateful. "Thanks, Super Spud." Next, his super spudly senses detected a crackle and heat. It was a fire. Quick as a flash, he was on the scene and whirled and whooshed around until he'd made a hurricane, and the flames were extinguished. Ta-da! "Thanks, Super Spud!" the people in the building cheered. And he got a special thank you from the town's mayor, after his cat Tiddles had got stuck up a tree. Who was the superhero that carried him safely to the ground? You've got it, Super Spud. The cat was less than impressed, but that's cats for you. And you'll just have to imagine how a magic potato carries a cat. It doesn't go into detail in this story. But anyway, ta-da! He'd saved the day once more. Trouble was that after a while, well, he put everything right. There were no more precariously balanced cars, or burning buildings, or cats stuck up trees, and Spud realised that he wasn't the centre of attention anymore. No one had called him a hero in weeks, so he came up with a plan. A really terrible plan. If there were no disasters to fix, he'd just have to create some more. Which, like I say, is really bad. A bad idea. But that magic sock had done something to any sort of common sense Spud had had. And to be honest, potatoes don't start with an abundance of common sense. First up, he changed the road signs on the busiest road. And lo and behold, there was a crash and a bang, and a whole row of cars were launched towards the edge of the bridge. "Have no fear! Super Spud is here!" He shouted, and quick as a flash with his super strength, pushed them all back to safety. People were grateful, but there was a muttering voice in the crowd. It was a child. a particularly observant and quite clearly brilliant child whose name was Orin. "Here, that road sign's been moved," they said. Spud hadn't heard. He was off to set a building on fire so he could heroically rescue everyone inside. Again, terrible idea, even with superpowers. He quietly hid the fire extinguishers that had been newly installed after the last fire, and although he only meant to start a small one with a bit of smoke, just for the effect, fires are unpredictable, and before he knew it, the whole place was raging with flames. Quick as a flash, he flew around in circles, creating an immense wind to blow out the flames. Ta-da! The fire was out, and thankfully, no one had been hurt. Again, people were grateful, but someone else had noticed things weren't quite as they should be. It was Orin. "Where are our fire extinguishers?" they said. And people began to look at Spud a bit suspiciously, and didn't cheer as much. He should have known to stop right there, but oh no, he was determined to be the town hero once again, and so rounded up not one, not two, but all the cats in the town, and shoved them up all the trees, and then, in a dramatic finale, safely carried them all down to the ground again. You'll just have to imagine once more how a potato carries a cat. I can't do all the work here. Now, if you've had a cat, you'll know that getting it to try and do anything is, well, about as likely as a dog playing the banjo or a horse doing taekwondo. I mean, they won't even move off the sofa unless there's food involved. But Spud didn't know this. He soon found out. What was meant to be a stealth operation under cover of darkness turned into, well, yowls and meows and hisses and scratches and swipes and more yowls. Not one cat was going to be placed up a tree like a Christmas fairy, and superpowers or not, they were making their feelings very clear. "Ouch! Oh, get off me!" All the noise attracted the townspeople. Lights were switched on and curtains pulled back, and the game was up. Spud sighed, defeated to the angry faces of a lot of cat owners. And annoyingly for Spud, Orin, the particularly observant and clearly quite brilliant child, was there too. "You wanted to be a hero so much you started causing disasters. Never mind Super Spud. You're more like Silly Spud," they said, and they all began to laugh and jeer. Spud felt awful, and his shoulders slumped, and he began to sadly trudge away. Orin took pity on the poor potato and ran after Spud. "Hey, there, don't be sad. I know you won't try to cause any more mischief." "Oh, I just want to be an hero again. Potatoes are rubbish." "Potatoes are great just as they are. I mean, you can do so many things with a potato. Chips, oh, who doesn't like chips? Oh my God, and roasted potatoes, they're amazing. And what about a lovely hot baked potato with butter and cheese?" Spud felt a bit better, and vowing to hang up his sock, he swooped back into the kitchen and returned to the vegetable drawer. He left the sock on the kitchen table where it was reunited with the wizard who had missed it very much. He had had to substitute it with a striped green one, and it really didn't do for an important wizard to have odd socks. And it turned out he wasn't all that boring now. He had a few exciting tales to tell, and the other vegetables crowded around to hear him tell his tales over and over again. Well, until it was his turn to be cooked into something delicious. I wonder if he did end up as a delicious jacket potato. Or maybe some yummy chips. What do you think? Orin has done the double. They used the character creator to come up with Spud, our hero, and also sent us the title Silly Potato. You can see why those work together so well. Brilliant, amazing, adventurous, and delicious. Let's catch up with our story master then. It's Orin. This week, Orin, you are our story master. You wanted a tale called Silly Potato. There are so many options and ideas. Why do you want a potato that's so silly?
One, I love potatoes. And two, I love being silly.
Now, I know, Orin, that you're like an artist, right? You love creating, and you made a book with Mario characters. Just tell us more about that.
So I discovered these guys on YouTube when I was in P1, and I went home and told my mum that there was these guys and she looked them up, and I made a wee book of just Mario characters I just drawed.
What did everyone that you showed thought of it?
Well, didn't really bring it into school, but yeah, everybody loved it.
Orin, it's been an absolute joy chatting to you. Thank you so much for being our story master. Got an idea for a story? Tell us the title at funkidslive.com/storyquest and we could bring your story to life. For a new story each week, make sure you hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss a single episode.